I've been told I belong at the end of the line with all the other not quites, with all the.
Front. We're going to sing a song that you definitely should know by now because we've done it a few times. So we're going to go ahead and get this thing started.
Well, I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. Man's empty praise and treasures that fade are never enough. Then you came along and put me back together, and every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Sing! Oh, there's nothing better than you, nothing better than you. Lord, there's nothing is better than you. 'Cause I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws, Lord. You've seen them all, and you still call me friend. It's the God of the mountains, is the God of the valley. Oh, there's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. All right, everybody sing, let's go. Oh, there's nothing better than you, nothing better than you. There's nothing is better than you. Let's sing that again. Oh, there's nothing. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. Lord, there's nothing is better than you. All right, you turn mourning into dancing. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty to ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. 'Cause you're the only one who can. You're the only one. You're the only one who can. One more. 'Cause you're the only one who can. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Nothing better than you. Lord, there's nothing. Let me hear you sing. Lord, there is nothing. Voices, come on. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. Lord, there's nothing. Well, nothing is better than you.
All right, y'all may be seated. We're doing a little bit of a special song for y'all. Just something that we started working on a little while ago, and we thought it would be a good thing to be able to share with you guys. Make sure you're listening to the message, because it's actually a pretty good one that's included in the words here. So we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, you ready? Yep, all good? Yep, all right, here we go. So just giving you your ear.
Why you ever chose me has always been a mystery. All my life I've been told I belong at the end of the line with all the other not quites, with with all the never get it right. But it turns out they're the ones you were looking for all this time. 'Cause I'm just a nobody, trying to tell everybody all about somebody who saved my soul. Ever since you rescued me, you gave my heart a song to sing. I'm living for the world to see, nobody but Jesus. I'm living for the world to see, nobody but Jesus. Moses had stage fright, and David brought a rock to a sword fight. You picked 12 outsiders nobody would have chosen, and you changed the world. Well, the moral of the story is everybody's got a purpose. So when I hear that devil started talking to me, saying, who do you think you are? I say, I'm just a nobody, trying to tell everybody all about somebody who saved my soul. Ever since you rescued me, you gave my heart a song to sing. I'm living for the world to see, nobody but Jesus. I'm living for the world to see, nobody but Jesus.
Let me go down, down, down in history as another blood but faithful member of the family. And if they all forget my name, well, that's fine with me. I'm living for the world to see,
Nobody but Jesus.
Let me go down, down, down.
Going down in history. It's all I ever want to be.
Well, that's fine with me.
For the world to see, nobody but Jesus. I'm just a nobody, trying to tell everybody all about somebody who saved my soul.
Save my soul.
Ever since you rescued me, you gave my heart a song to sing. I'm living for the world to see, nobody but Jesus. I'm living for the world to see, nobody but Jesus. I'm living for the world to see, nobody but Jesus.
All right. Say a quick word of prayer, and then I'll welcome up our speaker. All right. Dear Lord, thank you. Thank you that it really is nobody but you. It's not us that this world needs to see, but it is you, Lord. And I ask that as we're here, that the words that are spoken to us, that the word that proceeds from you, Lord, that it would remind us just who you are and maybe even who we are in you, Lord. We thank you for this day, and we thank you for this awesome opportunity to come into your house and to worship you in song and in the speaking of your word, Lord. In your awesome name, amen. And here's our speaker. I don't even need to welcome her up because she's already here.
I came up here, yeah. Okay. That would be nice if you guys could, like, clap for me. That would be good. Ah, yeah. Thanks. And that's the one part about not welcoming up a speaker. Okay, so today, chapel, nice. You can. Some of my 7th graders can tell you, what question was I asking you guys just like 10 minutes ago? Yeah, what to talk about in chapel. This is one of those really fun times. Have you ever heard an adult say that they wear a lot of hats? No, you've never. Okay, some of you have parents who communicate with you that way. Well, what it means to wear a lot of hats is that sometimes I'm wearing a hat that has this job, and then I take that hat off, and then sometimes I wear a hat that has this job, and then I have this one, and then I have this one. You guys all have different hats. How many of you play a sport? How many of you play 2 sports? 3 sports? How many of you do sports and something else like dance or theater? How many of you are also doing well in school, but you're also in clubs? What about how many of you have extrovert friends where you do all the crazy stuff, but then you also have introvert friends where you literally just sit there and play video games the whole time? Yeah, see, you guys all wear different hats too. Go ahead and put your hands down. When you're playing, I don't know, softball, you got a softball hat. You have all of those rules. You have your role. When I was in high school, I played softball, I played volleyball, I was on the competition dance team, and I was doing a bunch of AP classes. I was doing all of that fun stuff. And my hat for volleyball and my hat for softball were a little bit different. Starting with things as basic as like the stances. Out in the outfield, you are pretty similar to volleyball because you're like this. But other than volleyball, when a volleyball comes at you, what do you do with your hands? What do you do when a softball comes at you? What if, when a softball came at me, I decided, I know how to do this. I'm going to die. So I need different hats. Those of you who are in my classes, you've heard about the one time that Miss Kreitz played basketball, and it was, yeah, right? It was not a good time. For those of you who are like, what? I don't know. Just to show you that Miss Kreitz does not play basketball, she score-kept basketball. But she doesn't play. I had just been playing volleyball. Okay? Just put that in your head because you'll probably be able to figure out where we're going from here. And the coach was down a player, and he was like, I just need you to go out there for like the first 10 seconds so that we can start this game. And I was like, Coach, I don't play basketball. And he was like, you're just a body on the court. And I was like, okay, fine. Well, there was a rebound, and I ran over there, excuse me, and I was just like, okay, ball's coming at me. I got it. I know what to do here. But I had just been playing volleyball. So instead of getting the basketball, anybody want to guess what I did? I got into a perfect passing position. And that basketball, I don't know if any of you have ever attempted to pass a basketball. It's not meant for that. And the smack that hit my arms, and it just kind of flopped on the floor. And I think my favorite part of that entire experience was the silence of the people in the audience, of my teammates, of the other team, as everyone just stared at me as the basketball just kind of rolls away in between their legs because they had never seen that happen. And then everybody broke, and basically I was just like, no, we're done. But sometimes you wear different hats. My hat's here. Every teacher you have, even administrators, probably wear at least 4 or 5. Now, my hats are ASB advisor, head of the Performing Arts Department. I run chapel. I have all of that going. I'm an AP teacher, and I have other classes. That's a bunch of different hats. And every once in a while, adults can acknowledge this. Every once in a while, you get to wear all of your hats at the same time. Every once in a while, that happens. And for me personally, that's this last 2 weeks. Because what did we do last week? Red Ribbon Week, Spirit Week, high school ASB ran all of that. They came up with all of that. And then this week, as you can see, there's something a little weird going on with the stage. That's because we've got a high school play that is happening on Friday night and Sunday morning. If you would like to see some of your older peers on top of those prayer rooms, one of them is going to deliver a power ballad on the edge of this. It's going to be awesome. But for me, every once in a while, my hats will all line up. And that can get a little overwhelming. And if you're like, what? Adults get overwhelmed too? My teachers get overwhelmed too? Yes. Yes. So I would also argue that sometimes during the year, your teacher may never not be overwhelmed. You don't know. Their job is to not let you see because you are more important than that. But every once in a while, it gets a little overwhelming. And a story that helps calm me down actually happens to be the one that we're putting on Friday. Now, if you were in my 7th grade Bible class last year, what's up? You guys know this story. 7th grade Bible class this year, we mostly finished this story. But the story I'm talking about is the prodigal son. Now, back in the Bible, because Jesus was, I guess I can say it this way, Jesus was kind of big brain because he was 100% human, but he was also 100% God. And so there were a lot of like really big concepts that Jesus could understand because he was God. But the people he was talking to were not. How many of you know or understand that there are things that God understands that you don't. Yeah, that's one of the cool things about him being God, is that there's a whole universe of stuff that he understands that I don't. And you know what? That's okay. But Jesus needed to try to get this stuff into bite-sized pieces for his disciples. And how he would do that is he would wrap it up in a story. When you guys were in elementary school, you read things like Aesop's fables, like the tortoise and the hare, and the crow that like puts a bunch of rocks in water to raise the water level. You guys all remember those types of stories? The whole point was it's a story, but it's communicating a message. And now this story in particular is one that I remember when I'm feeling stressed out. Because a lot of times with my personality, I'm an achiever. If I'm unhealthy, I tend to base my worth in what I can do. And if I'm not doing anything, why am I here? It's very hard for people like me and people with my personality type to relax because we feel like we have to earn our keep to stay. And some of you might be like that. Some of you might be like, Miss Kreitz, I have literally never thought that once in my life. Well, see, you're the other half of this. And there are elements of that attitude that I envy. But basically, people are kind of broken up into two different types of people. People who think that they have to work and earn for something that God has already given them. Or people who say, nah, I'm good. Now, I could ask a question, which of those two do you think is more harmful? And the answer is yes. They are both incredibly harmful. And God doesn't want us to operate under either of them. But in the story in the prodigal son, it's a big metaphor. Does anybody know what a metaphor is? Yes, Eva. Uh-huh. Okay, I'll give you the definition that one of my friends in 10th grade said. He goes, oh, a metaphor. That's the thing that means the other thing. And you know what? That's it. That's a metaphor. It's a thing that means another thing. So in this story, we've got three main characters. We got a father, a dad, and we've got his two sons. One of them is older, one of them is younger. That's usually how that happens. Even if it's twins and it's a matter of minutes, one of them is going to be older and one of them is going to be younger. Now, at this time, your dad didn't necessarily have a whole bunch of money in the bank as much as he had money in property, in land, in things like that. And the thing was, when the dad died, that property, all of that stuff that his children could use to basically live on, would go to his children. But that was something that would happen when he died. Well, one day, we got the older brother and the younger brother. They both work for the dad. They're both living normal lives. Everything is going great. They have everything they could ever want. It's peaceful. They're chilling. And the younger brother decides, you know what? This life isn't good enough for me. So, I want to go. And instead of doing the proper, respectful thing and waiting to use his portion of the inheritance until the dad died, he went up to his dad and said, I want it now. Which you guys might be like, okay. Well, back then, that basically meant, I wish you were dead because you're bringing my life down. Now, me, as the caring, generous, loving person that I am, if one of my children ever talked to me like that, I would not react the way that the father did. And the father basically said, okay. And I can tell which of you would have been smacked by that kind of behavior. I can tell which of you are like, yeah, what's wrong with that? I can see it. But the father basically just said, okay. And let him go. And the younger brother did what we can expect young men with a whole bunch of money and no rules to do. He basically went to the old Israel version of Vegas and spent it all on parties and gambling and all of those things that you're really not supposed to do because it doesn't benefit you. all these crazy parties with alcohol, probably drugs, their version of it back then. And he's just like, yeah, I'm just going to spend all of this money and all this stuff. I can finally do what I want to do. I don't have to live under my dad's stupid rules. Well, a lot of times, rules are there for a reason. And because he was not doing wise things with his money, what do you think happened? He ran out. He succeeded in spending an inheritance that was supposed to support him and his children. So maybe, I don't know if my math is entirely correct here, but let's translate that into like the cost of a house. He spent all of it on stupid, unhealthy stuff that might have made him feel good for a minute. But then it was gone. Remember last week I told you that there are different types of friends. There are the friends that care about you, and then there are the friends that just want you to entertain them. Which types of friends do you think he made while he was there? Oh, yeah. Next thing he knows, he's in a completely different world, completely different land. He doesn't know anybody. He doesn't have a job, and he's out of money. And then to make things worse, the land that he's in is struck with a famine. Now, I want to test 7th grade from last year before you guys come in clutch. Does anybody over here remember what a famine is? Bryson? What'd you say? Yeah, pretty much. No food. Whether people didn't grow it, whether people were being dumb and didn't save it, whatever the reason, a famine means there's no food. Now, as I talked with them about, and as I'm talking with you guys about, people in America don't really understand what a famine is. The closest we got was the toilet paper scandal of March 2020, when we don't know, but that's not even food. We're talking no food. And all of us at one point in our lives have erroneously said the phrase, I'm starving, because you haven't had a snacky in 2 hours. That's not what I'm talking about. Notice I said all of us, because that's also me. I get it. But we're talking actual starvation. So our boy, who went from being the richest dude around, has nothing and has to go actually beg for a job. Now, you want to talk about dealing with rejection? Rejection sucks. Rejection hurts. But he had to beg for a job. He went from a position back at home. He didn't have to beg for one. He told people what to do. He was in a position of power. And he had to go beg for a job. And this farmer was like, yeah, I guess you can feed the pigs over there. And as we've discussed, pigs they're delicious when cooked right, but they are disgusting in real life. They will eat anything. And what most times you would feed pigs is, you know, after your mom has been cooking all week and like the carrot peels and the like gross afterbit, like leftovers that you scrape into the trash. It'd be like if you took all of that all week and just let it sit in a trash can until it turns into this like soup of gross leftovers and rotting food. Yeah, that's what they fed to the pigs. And the pigs were like, yeah. Well, they fed the pigs, but they didn't feed him. And it got so bad that he was looking at that forbidden soup of gross leftovers and peels and eggshells and rotting food, and he said, you know what, that's looking pretty nice. And then finally, a light bulb went off, and he said, what am I doing? Even the servants at my dad's house have extras left over. And that's when he realized, I've been very dumb. And it's important because he realized, in the Bible it says, he says, I have sinned against my father and against heaven. He understood the gravity of his mistake. He didn't just go against God. He didn't just go against his father. He went against God. And so our boy has to make a really tough decision. Is he going to look really stupid if he goes back home? Yep. Is he going to possibly be made fun of if he goes back home? Is he going to have to maybe deal with the fact that his dad should slam the door in his face when he shows up? Yep. That's what he deserves, right? Well, this is where the story gets good. Because fortunately, our relationship with God is not based on what we deserve. So he decides to go back home. And this dude looks like a hot mess. Probably hasn't taken a shower in weeks. Wearing the same clothes that he feeds pigs in. Not a good look. And he finally sees his house around the corner. And this is the part where the first time I read it and it really resonated with me, I sat in church and cried. And I will do my best to not do it now. But when he got there, it says in the Bible that while the son was still far away, like down the driveway, down the street far away, the father saw him and went running to him. Now, for the father to see him while he was still outside, where did the father have to be? Outside doing what? He was looking for him. He was waiting. All that time that the younger son was messing up and doing things he shouldn't be doing and spending all of that money, the father was waiting for him to come back. And he ran up to him, and bless his heart, the younger son tried to say, "I'm so sorry, Father, I've sinned against you and against heaven. I'm asking if I can come back and be a servant in your household." And he didn't even get that out before the father just throws his arms around him, smelly clothes and all, and says, "You're back. You were dead, but now you're here. Let's throw a party. Here, wear some of my nicest clothes. Take this gold ring, put it on your finger. Let's get you some nice shoes. Let's go." Now, normal people don't react that way. But fortunately for us, God is not normal people. And even while the son was doing stuff that broke God's heart, even when we live lives that break God's heart, it does not change the way he feels about us. And all he's doing, he's not sitting on his throne judging. He's not sitting on his throne going, I knew I shouldn't have, blah, blah, blah. No, he's sitting waiting for us to come back. And now you might be like, okay, Ms. Kreitz, but I don't understand how you identify with that. Well, here's the character that I identify with. When the older brother heard this party happening, the older brother was in the field working. He comes home after a long day, and here's a party. It's like, oh, maybe it's for me, because I've been working so hard. And then the servants dropped this bomb. No, your little brother came back. And we just made a big old feast for him. And the older brother loses it. And he storms out of the house, and the father chases him down and says, "Hey, come on in, your brother's back. We thought he was dead, but he's back." And the older brother lets him have it. "I have been by your side since day one. It says in the Bible, he says, I have been like a slave for you. I've never once told you no. I've done all this, I've done this and done this and done this, and I never got this. I never got a party. I never got any of that." And the first time I read this story as a child, I was like, yeah, you tell him. And then the father says something that just throws it all away. And he says, "Son, I get that, and I appreciate that. But everything I have is already yours. You didn't have to work for it. You didn't have to do all of that. You didn't have to try to force me to give it to you. Everything I have, everything." He didn't say half of my inheritance, half of this, up to a percentage. Everything I have is already yours. And now I've been both. I've been the younger son who comes back to God on her knees because she knows she messed up. And to have God just wrap his arms around me and say, "I don't care. You're back now, and that's all that matters." And I've also been the older one to look at other people and go, why should they deserve grace? They haven't lived this way. They haven't done. They haven't whatever. Only to have God say, "Why are you working? Why are you stressing? All the love in the universe is already yours without having to work for it." So whether you are either of those or anywhere in between, and we all will be both of those people for the rest of our lives, just letting you know. Hopefully not as severe in both cases, but we'll both have moments where we forget who we are or we say, nah. We're all going to have those moments. But just remember, whether you're the younger brother or the older brother, God is never angry with you. He's never disappointed in you. And he just sits and waits for you to come back so he can wrap you up in his arms and celebrate. Let's bow our heads. Dear Lord, thank you so much for today. Thank you for this opportunity that you've given us to learn more about you and how much you love us. Lord, I place a blessing on these kids, that they have a fantastic rest of the day, and the staff and the teachers, that we make it through the rest of this week strong and come back next week. And in your name we pray. Amen. If you would like to see the Prodigal Son acted out in a modern setting by our lovely high school students, come Friday night, 7 o'clock, or Sunday morning, 10 o'clock. See you guys there.